All right. If anyone is wondering what or who I am for Halloween, I'm that person in the top corner, right there. Catherine Howard, still high school. So that's my sister. I straightened my hair, I blow dried my hair, I will never do it again, and it's going to drive me crazy to my face all day. But that's who I am for Halloween today. Middle school or high school science teacher, Catherine Howard. And yes, we own all the same clothes, even though we don't shop together. So it's easy to dress up as her. So let's make it worth showing up for school today. All right, so a few quick things. Just as you're working on your portfolio, you want to keep going back and just making sure you have the requirements. By the way, don't freak out when it says 0 of 2 submissions. No one has actually submitted yet. They just accidentally submitted something else in this spot like 3 weeks ago. So, head down to the rubric, right, and check things. So for like what constitutes a page, it's not a page unless it has the header and the nav and the footer on it, right? So every page should have the header and the footer and the nav on it. The navigation clearly shows or indicates what the current page is. That's going to be, it's supposed to be really simple. All right, let's suppose I made a class called Current, and you'd make it better than this. And all I said was, hey, for class Current, I'm going to text transform to uppercase. Then on my index page, on the link to index, I would drop in class equals current. And then on my gallery page, I would drop that in. Absolutely ask in discussion next week, and we can probably show you an example. The most important thing I wanted to show you, though, however, is how many points is your portfolio worth? 125. There's not a single thing that you can mess up in this class where it will devastate your grade. I just want to remind people that there's like a Canvas what if where you can put your grades in. You don't want to, but if you were to get a 50% on this assignment, you could still end up with an A in the class, right? So this is out of 1,000 points this semester, and this is with 125. I try to work really hard to make sure that there's nothing you can do in this class where if you have an off week or two, it's going to negatively affect it, because I know anxiety is starting to ramp up. Okay? So what I want to do with you today is first, we're not going to do this together. I'm just going to talk about my answers real quick. I'm just going to close this one, close that one. Don't save. So don't code, just follow along for a second. And if you remember, in challenge 3, the key to challenge 3 was that I needed to make sure at least one of these was checked. And as soon as I saw that one was checked, I could say, yay, return true. Everything's good. In challenge 4, oops, go back here. In challenge 4, I had to check for 2 things, right? In challenge 4, I didn't want to submit until I had put something in here and in here. And that was just some logic that people might struggle with a little bit if they haven't seen it before. So you all have access to my code, the answer code. It's up from last week. Basically, whenever I have to keep track of multiple things, like, oh, are all these things or some of these things true? There's different ways you can do this, but I just made a variable called ValidInput, and I kept track of it. By default, I'm going to assume, yay, we're all good. It's the opposite of last time where I assumed all was bad. Here I'm like, we're good, everything's good, everything's good. And then, as soon as I got to some place where, ooh, I didn't fill this in, I updated it. All right, so take a look at that code over the next couple weeks, and it's just this idea that every challenge got a little bit bigger, and now we're going back to the Python and the logic. All right, but this is the one I really wanted to show you. This was the one where we hover and make Bacon show up along with his alt text. Right? So I'm going to put the code up, but you can also have it in front of you if you want. This is when I wish we had double screens. And I'm going to, unfortunately, make it a little bit smaller. Okay. We're going to be doing something similar in the next homework, but not exactly the same. But what did I do? I went over, and before, when we were putting like on click or on mouse over, when we were putting stuff into the HTML, remember like last week when I did it? Input, type equals checkbox, on click, do this. This file right here is an example of why sometimes it's better to put it in a separate file, all right? Because before, every time I added another image, I had to add another on click equals this. Add another image, I'd have to add another on click equals this, right? With the code I have right here, what I do is I was like, oh, don't worry about that. I'm going to make the whole page, and then I'm going to grab all of the images. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop through each image and say, add a listener, add a listener, add a listener. All right, I can, but this is the trick. Does that make sense? So if I asked you that question, why would you want to add JavaScript in like a separate file that uses loops? The answer hopefully would be that now if I go back over here, and I add another image, right? If I had to add another image here, my question is, do I need to change my JavaScript at all? The way I've written it, if I add another image here, do I need to go back and change my JavaScript at all? And I see Stephen making a head motion that is correct. Do you remember what your initial head? You do not need to change it at all, right? I can do anything I want with my HTML. The person who's writing the HTML doesn't need to know any JavaScript. They don't need to know about on hovers or on clicks or anything. The person writing the HTML can just write HTML. Otherwise, the way we were doing it last week was doing something like, oh, I have this on mouse over, blah, 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 blah. All right, I have a question for all of you. Does anybody know what TabIndex is? Yes? Mm-hmm. Right, so close. I'm going to show you. You have the right idea. Let me undo this. So normally, if you tab through a page, does it go to every single element on your page or just some of the elements? If we think about it, if we go to like actually I'm going to go, yeah. All right, they do a horrible job here. I love that you can't actually, nothing's in focus. But you can see that's in focus, this. Was this like image ever in focus? Or the only things that go into focus are links, right? So just as you said, when I add TabIndex, it actually lets me put images into focus as well. So when you give something a TabIndex, it makes it, if I were to give it, say, a TabIndex of 1, it would have actually been the first thing I go to. We don't want to do that, but I'm going to do that here. For instance, I'm going to change, get rid of that. I'm going to change this one. So this is TabIndex equals 1. So I went to the last picture, and I made it TabIndex equals 1. So now the first time I tab, I actually went here. TabIndex is pretty evil, all right? Because you really want your page to flow pretty much the same way it looks in the HTML. So using TabIndex equals 0 is okay, because TabIndex equals 0 says, hey, there's an element here, and I'd like to make sure that you can tab into it, but don't give it any special priority. Just do it in the flow. All right? But that's what TabIndex does, in case you were ever looking at that code and wondering what it does. Okay? Here was the tricky part, and it might look familiar from your homework. How in the world did I set the background image equal to like the source? So right here, when I do, hey, I want to change the background image, the code for that is URL not the code. Like, this is what I want it to look like. I want it to look like URL, parentheses, and then in quotes, dog2.jpg. But all I really have to go on is URL. And all I have is something where it's like my e.source. The tricky part of this code is saying, I want to somehow, I know that e.source evaluator equals dog.2 or dog2.jpg. I know it. How do I put these words together? And it's the very tricky, hey, keeping track of saying, sometimes I want a string, sometimes I want the value of a variable, and sometimes I want a string. What a lot of people did last year when I didn't give them the code like I am for you, a lot of people did this. And that did not work because it looked for the picture or the file called images.i.source. Right? So I'm not going to try, everyone's too tired and everyone's too ready to like get hyped up on candy. So I'm not going to go over this right now. I'm showing this to you because you need it in 3 weeks. All right? But for people who want to get ahead, I'm showing you right there. Go away. Instead, I'm going to change, we kind of looked at that. We're going to talk about Canvas for a second. So everyone open up their editor for me, okay? And while you do that, I'll go to it. If you'd like, I'd like you to I just want you to put this on in your editor, right in here. I just want you to make a canvas element in your editor, width of 200, height of 100. And then as soon as you run it and nothing shows up, raise your hand. That's you. Go back to it, sorry. And this is in this, if later when I switch over, this is in the slides for today. We have like 6 slides. This is something just like this is in it. I see the reflection of a blank white screen on a few people's faces. All right. So here's the deal with Canvas. Canvas is a drawing surface. Right? Canvas is a newer HTML5 element that lets you draw, do animations, and do kind of cool stuff like that. However, it really is just like a blank screen. Okay? What I want you to do, after you get this in, I'm going to put it in right here, is add, don't worry about this text right here. Get rid of it for now. Add this style. Just add a border around your canvas. And now if that doesn't work, then raise your hand. All right, so I'm going to put this off here to the side just a little bit. Open it just to make sure I gave you the right code. And you should see something kind of tiny over here to the side. If you got a square box, can you wave at me a little bit? All right, I'm going to give it another minute then. All right, does anyone not have the square box? Because I'm going to send the GSIs on to you. Anyone need us to take a quick look? Okay. Yay, you have a box. All right. This is your next homework assignment. All right. This is a Canvas element. All right. It's hanging out. We're all good. In your next homework assignment, which we're going to start talking about today, right now, is this is kind of like a drawing program. So I'm not dragging my mouse. I'm just going to move my mouse around the screen. And as I do, I am drawing a circle. Okay? If I hit the B key, it's now blue. Y is yellow. G is green. If I hit the space bar, it cleared everything. And I can go back to red, blue, green. All right, so today I'm going to show you how to do things on Canvas. And I need you to remember about how on Tuesday did we put listeners on things? Exact same idea that we're going to do today. Two other things I can do is I can, oh, by the way, it's absolutely fine if you just make random dots if you move too fast. All right. Other things I can do, if I hit the up arrow, it's like I just picked up the pen. If I put the down arrow, I put it back. The last one I'm going to do, pick it up. See this little color picker down here? I'm going to pick magenta, close this up. Oops, I didn't actually click on it. Oh, I'm like, why isn't it working? Because I have the key up. Let me hit the key back down. There we go. Okay. This is your next homework assignment, is to draw this. So let's start by learning how to draw in your Canvas element. So everyone has a little tiny box. Make it a bigger box. Change it to like 600 by 800 or something like that. So we're going to go into your code and let's make it 800. Actually, I'm going to do 600 by 800. Okay, that may have been a bit extreme. So just whatever size fits your fancy undergrad laptop. All right, so I'm going back to the slides for a second. You're going to want to use W3 Schools on this. All right, so much. In fact, I'm going to just open this up right now so I have it off to the side for me. All right, it's over here for when I need it later. Okay, first, why do people use Canvas? Anyone here have any desire into doing like games or little animations? You're going to want to do Canvas because Canvas can be animated. All right, so can other parts of the page, but Canvas much more so. Canvas can be interactive. And Canvas, as we mentioned, can be used in games a lot. So how do we draw in Canvas? All right, is this HTML or JavaScript? Thank you. Yeah, okay, so what do you need to add to your code? You need to add a script tag. Let's add a script tag underneath. All right. This is, you can tell, an older slide because I'm still using document.getElementById, and now we use query selector. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to type this in. Oops. I guess I can't type it in while you're trying to type it in. I'll do this and then I'll put my screen up. I called it that. All right, I'm going to assume this won't work because of my quotes, so I'm just going to active. Okay, good. All right, so what this code is doing, I'm going to change this to query selector because that's what you all are more used to. saying, hey, it's time to do JavaScript. We're going to do the same thing Colleen's been making us do over and over again. We're going to make a variable. I'm going to use a variable this time. By the way, I'm just going to give you a heads up. Use var, not let in this homework assignment. I'm going to use a variable. I'm going to call it canvas, and I'm going to point it at whatever canvas you just drew. All right? When I switched to query selector, why did I have to add that hashtag in front of my canvas? I don't remember, why is there a hashtag in front of it? Because it's an ID. I'm looking for something with an ID. If I didn't have that, they would think I was looking for the tag. Okay. The second line, the var CTX. It's annoying. Get ready to copy and paste that into all of your code. Okay? When you create a canvas element, great, you created it. If you want to draw on your canvas element, you actually have to do this line of code. All right? You don't have to call it CTX. Everyone does. Most examples you're going to find online do. And it basically says, hey, I would like to draw on this canvas element, and I'm going to use all 2D drawing commands. All right? So I'm going to just do 2D drawing on this. Okay? Does everyone have a box in your canvas now? Does anyone not have a black box in the corner? Ian and Drew, be ready to jump in on this. Does everyone have something that, if you do not have something that looks like this yet, raise your hand. Got 1, 2, okay. And if you do have it, change it to 50-50 and see what happens. Quick note, don't forget that your script code should be underneath your HTML code. Otherwise, it doesn't know what my canvas is. While you wait for me, change some of the numbers and look at what happens. Drew? Yeah. I don't know if you remember the command. Can you try changing the color? The CTX dot, before fill rect, can you do CTX dot set color for me?
I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll look it up. fill style color.
Yeah. Is it after or before? It's after.
Yeah.
Oh, she doesn't do tab. Fill style. What color are we making it?
Pink, obviously. Just kidding. Purple.
Oops, that works. I don't know for shortcuts. We're set up. So I can do some different. I feel like I should do some different. No, it's good. Oh,
It's not popping up on the right color though.
You gotta. I think you have to do fill.
Oh, you need to add fill onto it. Yeah. Or does fill style go before you? This example is not using that. Because that just said fill style rectangle at work.
Oh, because she was using fill rectangle.
Yeah. Because there's no full. Oh, yeah, no, fill style is right. Oh, I see. It's creating a different thing.
Yeah.
Is it the right one? Do you have to use
No,
fill
that's it.
again?
No, it's just we have to do the fill style before we do the fill rect.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because you're using fill rect, not fill. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Mobby.
No, we're good. All right. Made it pink? Okay. Good. Okay. All right, so let's talk about this line of code right here. Fill rect takes 4 arguments. An X position, a Y position. I used to be able to tie my shoe without holding on to things. I can't anymore. And then a width and a height. So that's why when it was 0, 0, it was up in the upper corner. When I made it 50, 50, if I make the first number bigger, actually, rather than doing this, no, I gotta do that, you know, I move it over. If you make the second number bigger, it moves it down, all right, so that we can draw things. Does everyone have a square? No? Okay, can you go back? Oh, Jane's back there, okay. All right, next thing let's draw. Let's draw a circle. All right, circles are weird. Sorry, yeah, I can see weird on that one. All right. Actually, I'm just gonna go here. So I'm just gonna copy this code in here for a second. You don't draw circles in Canvas. You draw arcs. All right. I know. But so what that means is if you want to draw a circle, you kind of draw a whole 360-degree arc. If you wanted to make a smiley face, you'd only draw half an arc. If you wanted the frowny face, we'd draw the other upside down arc. Right? So go ahead and do that, and it's not going to, yeah, that's true. And let's see what happens. I'm actually going to change the color of that one more time. Yes. Okay, yeah, so this is a good question. And we're going to talk about each one. This is math.py, and this is helping us figure out how many degrees we want our circle to be, or our arc to be. So once you get something to show up, I'm going to do this again for a second. So there's my circle. All right. What I want you to do is, go away. So I want you to change each one of these numbers. All right, I'm going to put it back up here. What happens if we change the 95 to 195? It goes, well, for you, that way. All right. If I change the second number to 250, it goes down. So those first two are still the X and Y. Let's change the 40 to 10. made it smaller. Right? So the third argument is always the radius, how big you want it to be. In the homework, the radius is always going to be 10. Just so you know, last year in the homework, they had to do stuff with that, so don't copy last year's homework. It's different. Our radius is always 10. All right? But then the question was, what do the other two numbers stand for? This is the starting angle, like position, and this is the ending. So if I make this a 1, okay, and I'm going to make this 50 again so it's easier to see. If I make this a 1, you can see it didn't go all the way through. If I make this a 0.5, I'm going to change this back to 0. All right. I'm never going to ask you to do all the math angle stuff, right? This one always annoys me. I always am like just putting numbers. Oh, wait, how do I make a smiley face? How do I do a half space? Oh, if I want to do a half space, this should be like oh, hey, this is how I do a smiley face. If you want to do a frowny face, I believe that's when I change the order. And now it's frowny face, right? It's just where I want my angle to start and where I want it to end. Okay? So I'm going to put this all back. And I want to make, before I go any further, I want to make sure, can everyone draw a circle? Okay? And once you can get the circle, if you can't, raise your hand, and if you can, change ctx.stroke to ctx_fill and see what happens. But did anyone not draw a circle yet? Okay. All right, so here's your challenge. Right now, I want you to change the draw arc. Right, so basically, I want you to leave those two lines alone. I want you to take this one. I want you to take these three right here. Right, these 3 lines right here. Actually, no, just these 2 lines. I want you to make a function called draw. I want you to make a function called draw, and I just want you to, inside that function called draw, I want you to draw. So I'm going to put this inside a function. Oops. Because you know I love doing this so much, and if you do this, it should actually, I'm going to put something back here just so you don't get sad. Okay. I'm going to leave that rectangle there just so you know your work is still working. Okay. Now if you reload it, your circle should be gone, right? Because you put your code for circle in a function, and we never called the function, so the only thing that should be left is that square. Does everyone have a square and no circle? Call the function to make the circle show up. And everyone's like, she wants me to call a function, and I kind of know how to do that, but I don't really remember how to do that. How do you call a function? How would I call this function draw? Actually, where is it? Yeah. Yep, and in fact, I can even do it over okay, so I'm going to comment this out for a second, and I'm going to open a browser, and I only see my square, and now I'm going to put it back in here, and now I see both, but clearly I did something. Oh. Okay. So that's it. I'm going to do 3 more slides, but if you couldn't draw, if you couldn't get the draw function to work, raise your hand, because this is the key to the next homework. Can you help here for a second? Anyone else? And don't forget, turn on the console all the time. All right, so this is just for you to understand why this is kind of cool. All right. Here are my 2 favorite pages with examples of Canvas stuff. Okay, the first one is blob. All right, this is a Canvas element right in here. All right, very interactive. They just drew some ovals for you. But there's part of using JavaScript is there's all these built-in functions for you, right? They have all the physics functions, all the math functions. So I'm going to start by kind of dragging Bob around. I can move him, I can throw him against the wall, and the physics will automatically, he always smiles. Is that for you? I can use the H key and get multiple Bobs. If I do the G key, I turn gravity on and off. All right, and I can still, again, this is all just using other things. If I hit the J key, they join back together. So when I originally said with Canvas, you can draw and animate and be interactive, I know people think, I can do that with CSS. Right? You can animate things with CSS and you can interact with CSS, but this is a whole new level. Okay? The other one I really like, and I'm going to lose some of you now, is you can do all these. They really love their physics. My favorite one is FreeRider 2. Right? All done with JavaScript, and I'm trying to remember. So when I start, I can do this. I can change direction. Ooh, there's sound. You can do all these different things you want to do with JavaScript. All right, I'm not very good at that part. Okay. So JavaScript is a whole thing in itself. In this class, you learn about JavaScript, but we're not doing like that, right? But since we are doing HTML and this class talks about accessibility, can anyone guess any issues with using Canvas? Like when we first looked at Blob, it just looked kind of like an image or maybe a GIF or something like that, right? So with images, what do we always add for accessibility? Alt text. When we do icons, which you can't use alt text, we can do ARIA label. Right? As of right now, there's really no good way to do accessibility with Canvas, especially because it tends to be really interactive and changing and stuff like that. Okay? So it's a really cool thing, but if you're using it for like a work thing or something like that to convey information, you need to find a second alternate, equally good way to present the information. Okay? All right. New line of code I'd like you all to add. we're going to add another listener. This one's a little bit different. We did this on Tuesday. Remember when we did like subscribe, dot, checked, or form dot subscribe? We're going to add a new listener now. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to add this code and then test it. Yes. Oh, why did I do it? Why did I have it twice? Yeah. Oh, sorry. The only reason I have it twice is because I had written this beforehand before class started, and I was trying to close it and not use it. So yeah. Thank you.
I just missed that. My computer was having issues.
All right, who got Hey to show up? Who's like, how do I check to see if Hey showed up? Always open your console, right? Always have the console. And then what I did right here is I said add an event listener mouse move. So I'm going to open this up for a second. Open my console. Always have that console open now. And so now I'm going to refresh it. I'm going to put my mouse in it and out. In it and out. Okay? Hey. All right. In addition to hey, let's go back up here. Let's comment out, now that you have it working, let's comment out Let's get rid of that little extra rectangle in our draw. All I did was comment those two out, and now when I refresh, nothing happens. What if we said instead, hey, every time I go in here, draw a circle? I commented out just the fill rect and the draw. And what I want to do, I'm going to try to keep it all here. I commented out those two. I now want to put draw down there. So I commented out the fill rect just to get rid of that weird orange, green, whatever rectangle we had in there. And our hope is now when we start, as soon as I move my mouse over that screen, a circle should appear. It should still say, hey, 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 hey. And it looks like we're only getting one circle. We're actually getting lots and lots and lots of circles, just all in the exact same spot. Right? Did anybody not get that one circle to draw? So this looks different than the ones we did on Tuesday. On Tuesday, we didn't have this whole function E thing going on, right? We were just saying, if I clicked it, if I submitted it. So when you move a mouse, there's a lot going on. And JavaScript will say, hey, I'm going to give you as much information as you need. So now, underneath, instead of console.log hey, will you please console.log E? Not in quotes, just E. And this is huge, everybody, all right? That line right there, that console.log E, you want that in every function you write for this homework assignment, okay? Every single function, because it gives you all the information you might need. Does everyone have this right here? Drew, can you help me? Yeah. So now look at it. Look at your console.log and move the mouse around. And you get this weird stuff right over here. Click on one of them to open it. I'm going to click on this one. Wow, there's a lot of information there. Right? Homework. When we do our homework, we don't want to draw a circle in the same spot every single time. Where do we want to draw the circle? Wherever the mouse is. And so we need to know the coordinates for the mouse. Scroll down here a little bit and see if you can find anything that might let you know what the X and the Y are. Did anyone find anything? So there's a few. So I need to check and see what screen X. So it is not screen X and screen Y. That's including parts of the screen that aren't in the canvas. Let's go down a little bit further. You can use page X or page Y or X or Y. So instead of printing out all of this, let's do E.X. I'm not sure if that's private or not. I always use page. Yeah. All right. So now if I go down here, I believe my thing is, what's the size of my canvas thing here? Anyways, we're expecting this to be about 600-ish. We're expecting this to be very small and then bigger is like, hey, that's it. It does seem to be returning the X and Y position, doesn't it, for us? All right. So what do we need to do to draw to that function? Not to draw. We have a function called draw. Right now it draws in the exact same spot every single time. We don't want it to draw in the exact same spot every single time. When we look at draw, here's my arc. Which of these arguments do I need to not hard code right now to have it move? The 195 and the 250, I need those to be variables, right? All right. I am partial to position x, position. So maybe I would have just called them x and y, because that makes sense too. But let's all admit we call all of our variables x. So we forget, if we actually name it x, it doesn't really mean anything to you. All right. So we have, I'm going to do this and it's not going to work. Position x is not defined. So you have two choices here. I'm going to let you, and you can decide. I don't care. But somehow we need to let it know what position x and y are, right? In my mind, there's two options. You either make a global variable or we pass it. All right, so let's go here. We gotta fix that there. Change the radius to 10. Not perfect, but are we close? Can we draw a line now? I'm going to let you look it up in W3, like, hey, how come it's messing up? So that's the beginning of the drawing circle part. What was another thing we needed to do? Do we always want it to be, in fact, we're supposed to start default of red. How do we do that? If you're supposed to have a default color of red, what do we need to do to kind of set the color? What was the command? Does anyone remember? Yes. Fill style. All right. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go up to the very top and I'm just going to make myself another variable. And I made myself a variable because we know we want the color to change, right? The color's going to change, the color's going to change. It's going to keep changing over and over again. So if you know something's going to change, you want to use a variable. All right. When do I want the color to change? What needs to happen? What are we listening for? We're listening for a key, right? All right, so what should we do? Let's Google it. All right, we know it's going to be similar. In fact, I'm even going to go right here. W3 schools, canvas, key. We'll say keyboard. Okay. All right, I'm going to come to your question 1 second. See if I can find it. Nope, that's not going to give it to us. JavaScript, key listener, W3 schools. Oh, look. It's called on key press. All right, so I'm going to go to your question here. Let's just see what happens if I copy this You had a question specific to you? Oh, no. Oh, okay. So it's not red, but it's not. Yes, so I'm going to Google that and the way it is right now. So, quick note if you want to write this down. Ooh, geez, that's on. If you want to write this down, we're not going to do it right now. I would make sure, write this down, seriously. Google begin path. That's going to help you fix that weird arcing thing, okay? But, how did this go? Did this line of code do anything? Did it do anything for anybody? Yes, no? Let's take a look, because I didn't check it. I don't know if it works yet. Okay, turn on my console. No idea what that meant. Oh, I was still in the console, sorry. Whatever. Because I may have picked the wrong event. Okay. All right, so key press wasn't right. I think then let's try key up. There's a lot of different ones we can do. Try key down. All one word. Oops. Okay. All right, double check again. Oh, okay, got it. This is a good thing I know. All right. When I'm pressing the keys, does that have anything to do with the canvas element? If you really think about it, does, with the mouse move, I only want to react when I'm moving over the canvas element. But for keys are a completely separate thing. Canvas doesn't listen for keys, right? Canvas doesn't do anything with keys. So just since I messed it up the first time, I'm just going to go ahead and put it here. What does have something to do with keys is my entire document. All right, so let me go here. Yeah. Instead of my canvas, let's change it to window. Hey, I've got this window going. As long as I'm doing something here, may as well wait and check and make sure I typed in the right thing before you all waste your time. Oh, yeah. So I set it on the window. Same thing, so when we do space bar, I don't think I'm making you all do orientation change this year. Last year I made it so when we were doing. All right, does everyone have that? Does everyone have something happening when you hit the keys up and down? Okay. Last year made me so sad because students said, it took me so long to look up what all the different key codes were for blue and green and red and yellow and spacebar, and they would get them wrong. You can absolutely 100% Google this. That is fine. Okay? However, let's look more closely at what this code is doing when we print out the E. If I click on it, it gives me a lot of interesting information. All right, so I'm about to hit the R button. All right, I'm just going to hit R. When I do that, I get, now these things seem to make, oh, it says key R and it says key code 82. I'm going to hit B. Oh, they're saying that's key B, key code 66. Oh, look, I don't need to look for anything. You don't need to look up all the key codes on the internet. Type an R and write down what the key code is. Type a B and write down what the key code is. Right? Does that make sense? So, we're going to go back over here. And let's go back to our draw. We don't need to do anything with draw. That all still stays the same, right? All right. How come I don't have anything in here about it being red, but it's red? Why is that? Why, even though I didn't say anything about it being red, that first circle is red? Why did it do that? Why was it red? What did you add in your code somewhere? Yeah, way up here I said, hey, this, all right? I'm actually going to copy this for a second, and I am going to put it in here. Not going to change anything, but it's here. Okay? So here's my question for you. In here, what do we want to do? So before I draw, every time now before I draw, I check this variable called color. And I say, hey, I might need to change this. Which function? So down here, in mouse move, I changed X and Y. I gave a new X and Y. Down here, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to say color equals green. All right, I'm going to open this again. Doesn't matter what color I said be green, as long as I hit a keyboard. I'm hitting a key. Once I hit a key, it did say, actually, be green. Right? We don't want to hard code it to green, right? We do not want to say color equals green all the time. What do I want to do if I hit the B button? Simple answer. Shout it out. Good points. I want to make it blue. What do I want to do if I hit the G button? I want to make it green. So as programmers, how do we say that? If key code equals whatever the key code is for B, color equals blue. If the key code. So I'm going to stop talking. That's all we're going to do together, but we're going to help you all do this as much as you want. Quick note, what just happened there isn't right. When I change the color, all the old red ones shouldn't go away, right? Everything that was red should stay red. Everything new should be blue or green. So your goal right here is write a series of if statements to change the color. And then you're going to be like, wow, I'm much further along with this Canvas homework than I thought, which is not due until a week from Sunday, okay? So the hope is you can get a big chunk done today, and then in class we can talk about it some more next week. We're going to do the homework after that is jQuery. We're going to do that together in class next Thursday, just like we're starting this one together to get started. And your portfolio is due. It was supposed to be due this week. We moved it back a week. After that, homeworks are every 2 weeks. And in fact, the jQuery homework was supposed to be due the Sunday before Thanksgiving. I switched it to the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, so if people had questions and you actually show up the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, we can work on them together. Okay? All right, general questions before I go and help people with individual questions. Yes?
It's still filled, so it's just drawing here.
It's still a fill. It's still fill because if you just do stroke, it's just as an outline of it. Yeah. So if I were you all right now, if that weird thing is bothering you, go do the W3 schools and check to see how they draw a circle. They usually use begin path before they fill the arc. But you do want it to be fill, because otherwise it just draws an outline of a circle. You mean here?
Yeah, like when you draw, it's drawing it's drawing a line from where you entered the. Can you just draw it? It's like a massive cascade.
Yeah, it's got a big cascade. Yep, absolutely. This is wrong. I mean, this is the start, but this is where you need to go investigate what begin path does. Because you're right, you're saying, hey, every time before I draw this arc, I need to set a new begin path so that it doesn't have that weird arcing thing. Yep, right in there. W3 Schools has a lot of things for that. Okay, so we're going to start circling, having questions. Ian, can you stick on that one? I'll do. Jane and Drew, can you do this one and I'll do that side? So Jane, if you want to start in the front. Oh, actually, Jane, you get that section. Okay.
So this should be a good thing.
Set the color.
So that's another one we're gonna have to,
Well, you can just check.
So this should have.
Anyone who's still here, by the way, I think it's going to make you feel a lot better if you just quickly Google how begin path and arc work together. This was literally one line of code. And it will make you feel better. All right, so W3 schools, begin path, arc.
Comparing code in my workspace says this code and then this code is very similar.
Is that what you're looking for? Okay.
Going well. Nothing's caught on fire, disconnected, exploded, broken.
Always a good day.
Otherwise caused chaos, yeah.
I didn't get a chance to stop by this morning, so
No worries.
should be good to go.
Jill, are we meeting on this?
How are you doing?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Going well. Good.
Excellent.
I think everything went well.
It did. It's this half. Make sure I turn everything off. This half of the semester is so much better than the first half.
Is it really? People are up to speed.
It's just coding, and they're more comfortable coding than it's a web